You're not seriously planning to live alone in all that space, are you? Craig has 3 kids now. The timing couldn't be more perfect for everyone. My sister-in-law's voice drifted through my phone speaker that morning, warm and unhurried, the way someone sounds when they're announcing a plan they've already decided is settled. She wasn't asking. She was informing. I was sitting in my car in the parking garage of Linden Tower, the building I had purchased 3 weeks prior. I hadn't moved in yet. My movers were scheduled to arrive in 45 minutes. But there was already a different truck parked at the entrance. I recognized the furniture immediately. The hideous mustard sectional my brother Craig had dragged from apartment to apartment for the better part of a decade, the chrome bar cart with the bent wheel that never rolled straight, the massive framed print of a city skyline that had hung in every place he ever lived. Through the glass lobby doors, I could see his 2 older kids, ages 7 and 5, running across the polished concrete floors that the building manager had told me were freshly sealed and should be kept dry for another 48 hours. I sat completely still in the driver's seat, and I pressed record on my phone. There is a version of me that would have sprinted through those doors and started screaming. I used to be that version. I spent most of my 20s being that version. Reactive, loud, easy to dismiss as unstable once someone decided to use the word against me. It never worked. So instead, I sat in my car and recorded everything, and I watched a mover haul Craig's battered bookshelf through my lobby, and I breathed through my nose the way my therapist taught me, and I let the calm settle into me like something hardening. My name alone appears on the deed for Unit 1407. I own it outright. The full $880,000 purchase price traces directly to my personal accounts, accumulated over 11 years of working as a structural engineer, which sounds impressive until you picture what it actually is, which is being the only woman on a construction site at 5:30 in the morning while a foreman twice your age talks over you and a subcontractor tries to hand your question to the nearest man standing. I did that for 11 years. I never took a real vacation. I drove a car with a cracked dashboard and peeling window tint, and I told myself the car didn't matter because the goal was the building, the unit, the floor, the address. Something that was mine and only mine in a way that could be documented and defended. I bought this condo because I needed to get out. Craig is my older brother. He is 41. In those 41 years, he has launched a meal prep subscription service that folded in its 4th month, co-signed on a bar concept that never cleared its liquor permit, poured $30,000 of my parents' retirement savings into a cryptocurrency play that evaporated in a single week, and most recently incorporated something he called Apex Logistics Partners, which, from everything I could observe, consisted of Craig sending cold emails and attending breakfast networking events, and telling people he was in the pre-revenue phase of aggressive market positioning. Every time Craig failed, my mother called me. Every time. Without exception. The calls followed a pattern so familiar I could have transcribed them before she spoke. She would start with how hard it was watching him struggle. She would circle into how I had always been the capable one, the one who didn't need as much. She would land on the number. How much? Just for now. Just until he got traction. Just until the next thing took off. She would remind me, sometimes gently and sometimes less so, that they had supported me. That family meant something. That what was mine had not been built in isolation. I helped because I believed her. I helped because the alternative, sitting with my mother's disappointment and my extended family's whisper campaigns and the slow social exile that followed when you said no, felt like too much to sustain. So I helped. I wired money. I signed on to a loan I shouldn't have signed on to. I showed up to Craig's launch events and clapped and said encouraging things to investors who were going to lose their money. When I stopped, my mother called me cold. She said it like it was a diagnosis. When I closed on Unit 1407, I told her about it because she is my mother, and there are things I still can't make myself withhold from her no matter what she's done. I told her the building name, the floor, the unit number. I told her I was finally doing something that was entirely for me. I told her I was happy. 3 days later, she called to ask for a spare key. Just for emergencies, she said. What if something happened to you and no one could get in? It's just responsible. It's what any concerned mother would ask for. I almost said no. Every part of me almost said no. But I have watched my mother cry on the phone enough times to know what follows a refusal. The version of events she tells gets revised. Relatives receive calls. Someone's aunt sends a text about how I've changed. Holiday dinners develop a quality that can only be described as performative grieving. I calculated the cost and I handed her the key, but not before I made one other stop first. On my way home from the coffee shop where I gave my mother the spare, I drove to the office of an attorney named Blackwell who handles property disputes. I had been to see him once already, the week I closed, because I know how my family moves. I had given my mother my address, and within 2 days, Craig had texted me for the first time in 4 months to say he was proud of me. Unsolicited, unprompted, the pride of someone who has spotted an opportunity and is trying to soften the approach. Blackwell was thorough and unhurried, and he laid it out plainly. "Don't move to stop them the moment they arrive," he said. "Let them bring things in. Let them establish intent. Let them make themselves at home in a way that is documentable. The more settled they appear, the cleaner the trespass case." So when I handed my mother that key in the coffee shop, I also delivered to Blackwell a full packet, the deed bearing only my name, the bank records tracing every dollar of the purchase, a notarized affidavit confirming that I had extended entry permission to no one, and a formal trespass notice executed and ready to serve. He kept it on file. I gave him a single-word signal for when to activate. I texted it from my car in the parking garage while Craig's movers unloaded the bar cart. Confirmed. I gave it 20 more minutes. I watched a second load come off the truck. I saw Craig's youngest, still in a stroller, being wheeled through the lobby doors. I watched Denise stand in what I could see from the car window was the entry to my unit, gesturing at the wall like she was already measuring for art. Then I took my folder out of my bag, walked through the lobby, and rode the elevator up. The door to 1407 was propped open with a box. Inside, Denise was directing the movers with the confidence of someone who had been making herself at home for years. Her designer tote hung on the hook I had just installed by the door. The floors, wide plank white oak, had the stroller parked across them. "Oh, you're here." She turned and smiled in that particular way she has, the smile that is technically warm and functionally armor. "We were trying to get it set up before you arrived. Your mom said you've been completely slammed with work and probably hadn't thought through the logistics. We figured we'd handle it." "Why is your furniture in my apartment?" It wasn't a question by the time it left my mouth. She performed a brief confusion, blinking once. Craig said it makes so much sense. The building, the address, Linden Tower is exactly what his investors need to see. And there's genuinely plenty of room. We worked out which rooms would make sense for each of us, and honestly, I think you'll be surprised how well it. Craig came out of my home office. He was on his phone. He held up one finger at me, the gesture of a man who believes his call is the priority in every room he enters, and finished his sentence before making eye contact. "Hey, you made it. We were thinking you'd take the back bedroom. It's a little smaller, but for one person it's honestly more than enough space, and with clients coming through here." "Craig." My voice didn't rise. "This is my home. Call off the movers. Tell them to take everything back out." He gave me the look. The patient, faintly disappointed look of a man who has been explaining himself to women his entire life and considers it beneath him. "You're doing that thing where you make it into a confrontation. We're family. This isn't." "Put me on with Mom." He dialed. He handed me the phone. My mother picked up immediately. "Did they get everything moved in? Isn't it a beautiful?" "You gave them a key to my home. They're moving their belongings in without my permission. Tell them to stop." Silence. Then the shift in her voice, not anger, worse than that, the tone of a parent delivering a difficult truth to a child who refuses to grow up. "You need to be less rigid about this. You're 31 years old. You live alone. Craig has a family and a business that needs the right infrastructure to succeed. You have more than enough. Sharing what you have with people who love you is not a sacrifice. It's a choice. The kind of choice that reflects on your character. I saved for 11 years. And that is wonderful, but you didn't save in a vacuum. This family carried you. My student loans are in my name. Every business loan Craig defaulted on had someone in this family covering the gap. Every venture he walked away from cost someone something. The money you're calling family support went in one direction for a long time, and I was usually the one sending it." She was quiet for a moment. "You've become someone I don't recognize," she said. Then she hung up. I stood in my kitchen and looked at the waterfall quartz island I had spent 4 months selecting and budgeting for, and I watched a mover set a box of Craig's protein supplements on its surface. And I felt the last thread of hesitation go slack. I walked to the window. I texted Blackwell the building address and unit number in the single word, "now." Then I called the non-emergency line, explained what I was looking at, and was told by the dispatcher that given the circumstances, she was escalating it to a trespass call. Craig watched me on the phone. "Who are you calling?" "The police." He laughed. A short, sharp sound. "You're not calling the police on your family." I looked at him and said absolutely nothing. The laugh disappeared. Blackwell arrived in the lobby within 12 minutes. He had been nearby. We reviewed the documents briefly. Deed, bank statements, executed trespass notice. And when the 2 officers arrived, we met them at the entrance, where I handed over everything in a clean folder and walked them through it in 4 sentences. The lead officer looked up from the deed. Sole owner, no mortgage. Purchase price funded entirely from one account. Correct. And you didn't give anyone permission to enter or occupy. I did not. I have 19 minutes of phone video from the parking garage and additional footage from inside the unit if that's needed. He nodded. Let's go upstairs. The elevator opened onto the 14th floor. The officer knocked. Denise opened the door expecting something else entirely, and the expression she had prepared collapsed the moment she registered the uniforms. She recovered in seconds. Thank God you're here. Her voice went warm and frantic simultaneously. My sister-in-law has been making some really concerning statements. We've been trying to handle this as a family, but Ma'am, we're responding to a trespass complaint filed by the registered owner of this unit. He looked at me. Are you the owner? I am. I walked past Denise and stood in my living room. Craig came out of the back and started explaining. He used the words family situation twice and working it out once before the officer stopped him. The deed for this property lists one owner. You are not that person. You were not given access by the legal owner. Your presence here constitutes unlawful occupation. You need to stop the movers, remove everything that was brought in, and vacate. We have a key, Denise said. Her mother gave us. A key provided by someone other than the legal owner does not convey any right to enter or occupy. The owner has explicitly stated she did not authorize your presence. Please begin moving your belongings to the truck now. Denise looked at me. All the warmth was gone. What was underneath it was something harder and more honest. You're doing this over a technicality. There is no technicality, I said. This is my home. You walked in without permission. Now you're going to walk out. The movers, who had clearly been waiting for someone to make a decision, began reversing immediately. They loaded the mustard sectional back onto the elevator with a speed. They had suggested they had suspected this job was going to end badly and were relieved to be proven right early. Craig got on his phone in the corner, talking in a low voice, and I caught the word postpone, and then the phrase situation at the property, and I understood he was calling someone he had planned to invite here. Someone he had already described this address to. Denise started crying. Real tears, or close enough that it didn't matter. She called Craig's name twice. He didn't come to her. The elevator opened and my mother walked in. She had driven 40 minutes. She was still in her book club clothes, and she stopped in the doorway and took in the scene, and then looked at me with an expression that had layers of history in it. I could have spent years unpacking. Sweetheart, she only uses that tone when she needs me to remember that I am her child first and a person second. What have you done? I protected my property. From your own family. From people who let themselves into my home without my permission and started moving in. We had a key. Ma'am, the officer was patient, but the patience was the kind that has a floor. Are you the registered owner? I'm her mother. Then you don't have standing here. Please let this process proceed. She looked at me the way she has been looking at me since I was 16 and started saying no for the first time, like I was a problem that shouldn't have developed and didn't know what it had cost her. The neighbors are going to see, she said. This building, these people. Yes, I said. They'll see. They did. A woman from 1406 opened her door as the second elevator load went by. A couple waiting for the elevator on the way down watched Craig carry his own bar cart back through the lobby, the one with the bent wheel that had always dragged. By 7 o'clock, the last box was gone, the door was closed, and Blackwell had formally served the no-contact order to each of them. My mother, Craig, Denise, standing in the lobby while the building's security camera recorded it. Craig's parting shot was, "You'll regret this," delivered without conviction. My father called that night and left a voicemail. He said the story had already traveled through the family, that what I had done was humiliating to people who loved me, that Craig had 3 children, that I should call and apologize before this got worse. He said I had become a stranger. I listened to the message twice, then I blocked his number. My mother's, Craig's, Denise's. 3 aunts who texted, a cousin who called on behalf of the family to say he was just checking in, which meant he was gathering information. A biometric lock replaced the old one by the following afternoon, my fingerprint only. No duplicate possible. No spare that could travel through a coffee shop and end up somewhere it was never supposed to go. I heard things over the following months, through the one cousin who actually asked how I was doing instead of how I was behaving. Craig's investors had gotten word of what happened. In the professional circles he was moving through, a story about a man who showed up to his sister's property and misrepresented it as his own address, then got removed by police, was the kind of story that stuck. 2 meetings evaporated. A third investor asked for clarification and, once he received it, did not respond again. Apex Logistics Partners dissolved quietly by spring. Craig and Denise are renting a 2-bedroom in a suburb. I know because my cousin mentioned it. I didn't ask. My parents, who had built decades of family life around the certainty that Craig was going somewhere worth waiting for, found themselves holding more than they expected once that certainty was gone. The relatives who had watched the version of events my mother told found it complicated by the version the security footage told. I don't know exactly what their days look like now. I made peace, slowly and genuinely, with not needing to know. What I know is this apartment in the early morning, the east-facing windows and the light that comes through them around 7 and lands on the floor I chose, the color I chose, the counters I waited 4 months to afford. The sound of coffee brewing in a kitchen where nobody is going to call and ask me what I owe them for the privilege of being here. The particular silence of a home that belongs only to you, not in spite of your family, not as a betrayal of anything, but as the simple and hard-won result of deciding that what you build with your own hands is yours to keep. The lock reads only my fingerprint now. You cannot duplicate a fingerprint. You cannot hand one to someone in a coffee shop. You cannot slide it across a table with a smile and tell yourself it will only be used for emergencies. That is where I live now, behind something that cannot be copied and cannot be given away. The foundation does not move.